back. You are tuned in to Traders Nation. My pleasure to have with us here to do today Suzanne Simons, book author, Master of War, Blackwater, USA's Erik Prince, and the Business of War. Suzanne, welcome to Traders Nation. How are you today?
Hey, Kurt. I'm doing great. Thank you.
Oh, good. Glad to have you here. Why should Americans care about Blackwater's story, and Erik Prince in particular?
I think Erik Prince has a fascinating story, just from a personal perspective, because of his enormous wealth and his drive. He's a young guy. He's a former Navy SEAL. But what he managed to do with this company that really started out as a training organization for Special Operations Forces, it really turned into something much, much more, and something that the United States Department of State became dependent on in Iraq for a while.
Sure. All right. So what we're talking about here, he had a business, he had an idea, and from that, it actually grew into more needs of what the government needed, correct?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. 2003, the U.S. decided to go into Iraq, and it didn't actually have enough troops to do everything that needed to be done. So when the Department of State went in there and they said, hey, we need some security to keep our people alive, they asked the military, and the military said that we don't have enough people who are trained in doing private security details. So they decided to contract out. All right.
So extensively, the U.S. has really come to rely on contractors. How important are these contractors to the United States government? Are they really woven in for that support of what the government needs?
Well, there are more contractors working in Iraq today than there are U.S. troops. So if you ask if every single one of those jobs needs to be filled, the answer is going to come back probably yes.
Yeah.
So how do you fill them? You contract out or you expand the military, and you know what that means.
Right, exactly. All right, so war is ugly. It's not pretty, and by far it's not polite. Doesn't someone like Blackwater need to be there to do the dirty work?
Well, yeah, it's not so much dirty work. I mean, I think it's something that the military in this country has been trained, historically to do the dirty work. That's their job and their mission.
Right.
But I think when, you've got operations like we do in Iraq and Afghanistan, and you really need sort of temporary help. I mean, there are people who are optimistically hopeful that we're not going to be engaged in those arenas for a long time to come.
Sure.
So I think for that short gap type of work, contractors aren't necessarily a bad thing. The trouble has come into how the government has or has not been overseeing them, and not really bringing any accountability to their actions.
Well, two things. One, the government I think has a problem overseeing a lot of people and accountability. But two, there is a big difference though between transport companies and companies like Blackwater that offered those security services, right? I mean, that makes the good and the bad.
There's definitely a difference in the day-to-day, if that's what you mean. I mean, serving breakfast to troops and doing their laundry is a far different thing than, being heavily armed and driving through the streets of Baghdad, for example.
Right.
So, yeah, the nature of the work is very different. But that's been another struggle in the government for, the past 6 years, if you can believe it's been that long.
Yeah.
What is inherently governmental? What needs to be done by people who work for the U.S. and people who really work for a business?
Right. All right. So why did the company do so well and really gain a ton of dough as far as lucrative contracts are concerned, then end up changing it all and nearly getting out of the personal security business? What happened here?
Well, you remember back in 2007, September, the Blackwater guys were involved in a horrible shooting in a Baghdad traffic circle.
Right.
There were 17 Iraqis killed that day. One of them was a 9-year-old boy.
Yeah.
Now, the guys that were involved in that are no longer working for Blackwater, but they've been charged by prosecutors. And they say they've done nothing wrong. There were no charges brought against the company, but that was really the beginning of the end for Blackwater as the world knew it.
Right. And their popularity or their notoriety actually came before that, didn't it? Weren't 4 of Blackwater's employees trapped, ambushed in the streets, and then ultimately killed and hung over a bridge in Iraq?
Just horrific what happened to those guys. I think it brought back images of Somalia in a way. And, you saw what happened to them, and it didn't really matter to a lot of people whether they were contractors or troops. They were Americans.
Right.
And I think that's part of the problem, too, because that's how the world sees contractors. They're Americans, so they're kind of held to the same standard as, what U.S. troops would be when it comes to winning the hearts and minds of people. The problem in this case has been that Blackwater has a mission. Its mission is to keep its diplomats alive.
Right.
It doesn't really care about the hearts and minds. It's not paid to care about it. It cares about keeping diplomats alive. The military, the critics inside the military that I talked to said, these private companies need to inherit a little bit more risk. They need to accept it.
Right.
Otherwise, we're just going to bring a bad name for the U.S. overseas.
17 killed in Iraq. Were they securing somebody? Were they moving a diplomat through the streets? What happened there? It had to have been triggered.
There had been a car bombing a little while earlier. And there was another team that was accompanying a reconstruction official, because that's what these guys do. They move from point A to point B.
Sure.
They move with the reconstruction people. So another team had come in to try to clear out a traffic circle, to clear a route. And that team was the one that was involved in this shooting. And, the guys say, hey, we feel like we came under attack. There were insurgents shooting at us.
Right.
And the Iraqis say, nobody shot at you. This was just cold-blooded murder.
Right.
So, somewhere lies the truth, of course. I think the guys are due to go back to court sometime in January.
All right, so what's left of the Blackwater Empire? Are they still working?
They are still working. The name has changed, so there is, in fact, no Blackwater anymore.
All right.
Erik Prince changed the name of the company to Z, spelled X-E.
X-E.
They're a much, much smaller organization. A lot of the guys who had worked for him as his top executives have left the company since January.
I see.
The Iraqi government kicked them out. It took the U.S. about 18 months, but they finally were able to find a replacement for the work that Blackwater was doing at the time.
Yeah. What are they currently doing? What's their mission statement, if you will?
The State Department or Blackwater?
Yeah, Blackwater's.
They're still, Erik Prince's other companies are still providing support services to the military.
Yeah.
They're working for him in Afghanistan. They're moving military troops from point A to point B.
Okay.
They're also training Afghan border police, which is, no fun job. Those are the mountains, of course, where Al-Qaeda and Taliban move back and forth pretty freely.
Sure.
So they're still pretty heavily engaged with the government.
Okay. All right. Where can we find a copy of Masters of War today, Suzanne?
Gosh, I hope every bookstore. I know definitely on Amazon.com. And, if you Google online, there are even a couple of excerpts you can read if you just want to get a taste and see if this is, something that's interesting for you. You just have to Google CNN and Master of War.
All right. Absolutely fantastic. Suzanne Simons, book author, Master of War, Blackwater's USA's Erik Prince, and the Business of War. Suzanne, thanks for being with us here today.
Hey, thanks, Kurt. I appreciate it.
You're more than welcome. All right, head out today. Get a copy. Barnes & Noble, Amazon.com, your local bookstore, wherever fine books are sold, you do want to get a copy of this. It's absolutely fantastic. If anything, head down to your local bookstore, too. That guy in the corner, he needs your business. There's no doubt about that. Support your local business and get a great copy of Master of War. Suzanne Simons, once again. By the way, executive producer for CNN, too. All right, so there you have it. That's why she mentioned CNN.com. Head on over there today if you so wish to.